Hi there, John here, Microaces. Welcome to Microaces Workshop once again and to part 8 of our Percee build. Where have we got to? Well, let me just get our model. I've got to be careful here. I don't want to reveal too much. Oh, you saw it. So we got to this stage here where we've got the whole fuselage built, the nacelles on, the inner wings on, and as you can see, I've been busy. Whilst I've been away, I've put one of the wings on, but I've left the other one off. So I'm going to show you the how we actually create that wing, how we attach it, and obviously because the other one is a mirror of that wing, I'm sure you'll be able to work it out. And of course, you have got the manual, and I know you've got the manual because we finished it today. I haven't got a copy here to show you. I've packed them all up and popped them into the boxes, which is a bit of a shame. Oh, we've got we can see our camera there. Oh well, we'll put up with that. Yeah, so great news. The manual's done. Not that you mind because you've got one there in front of you, but it's obviously a great reference, and it's a great tool for helping building these kits. It takes an absolute age to get them done though, but it's well worth it. So that's great. Okay, let's get down onto the build board. Oh, there's my tea. We'll just take a quick swig. And I've prepared the parts already for us to actually assemble the wing itself. So we've got our wing skin, which is essentially it's a single piece that we will score, fold over. We've got the aileron here, which has already been scored. If we are actually adding ailerons to the kit, then we can actually remove this aileron and hinge it so that it's mobile and controllable. And in fact, I will be building this wing with aileron control. I think most people will opt for that, but because the receiver that we've recommended and that we sell has the ability to set up differential thrust, it's not always the requirement to have ailerons, and it just really depends on how you want to fly the aircraft. And obviously, if you don't have ailerons, you don't have two servos. Each servo is about 1.7 grams, so you're saving yourself 3.4 grams, maybe even a little bit more with connectors, etc. So obviously, decreasing the weight of the aircraft, they're potentially making it a better flyer, or a slower flyer anyway. But before we start skinning, and there you can see the servo that we're going to put in. Before we start that, we've got to build a framework. You experienced this on the inner wings, but this is the finale, if you like, of creating the wings and building them. So we have got our spars. Now these are made of the 2mm material, which is, as you know, very flexible. So we are going to be strengthening that completely with our plastics. And the plastics are actually scored. And as I've said before, if that score is not bending, this isn't actually doing too bad, but if it's not bending particularly well, we can always just quickly run our knife gently down each of the scores just to give it that extra pliability. So you should, if you're careful, be able to run the knife down the score without needing a ruler. It'll just stay in the groove, as it were. So let's just do that one more time. Obviously, we don't want to go all the way through. that's a bit better. So we'll shape this first as if it's installed already, so that when it comes to actually bringing the two parts together, there's no additional work for the glue to do apart from just hold the two pieces together. It's not trying to stop a piece of material springing back open or anything like that. So just bending that round, and it's only right at the tip area here that we create our little sort of three-sided box action, and then the rest is open. So just making sure that that's roughly at right angles. There we go, and then I will offer up foam. There we go. Now, if you line up the slots, then you'll get the correct position at the end of the spar itself. As you can see, there's a little hollowed out part of the spar there, and that will actually be taking these little wing braces, or dihedral braces, I should say. So they actually just sit in that area there. So before I glue that, in fact, we'll bring these together. I've got a couple of little clips here that just hold them in place while they glue. I'm actually going to use my aliphatic resin for this, which is good on the timber. Just run a little over the surface of that one, pop it together like so. And then pop it in the clip. Okay. That can sit over there while it glues. Ditto with the other one here. Yeah, clamped, and that should only take about 5 or 10 minutes to dry off, and then we'll install them. But in the meantime, let's just get some glue onto him. It's a cold day today, hence why I'm wearing this rather natty jumper that was purchased for me by my wife. But the glue, the Yoo-hoo, is it's affected quite a bit by temperature. It becomes very thick. In fact, it's not doing too bad now. When I first opened it, it was like it had set inside. So I'm just providing quite a generous smear. Obviously, this is particularly structural, this part, as it supports the entire length of the wing outside of the nacelles. So the more strength we can add, the better, without going crazy, that is. Oh, and we do need some in here, but what I'm going to do is, whilst holding one, I'm doing the cap of it. I'm just going to add to the glue. Oh yeah, it's definitely starting to run now. And because this is sort of inside the structure, if we get a little bit of glue outside of the box on the surface, or rubbing it up a bit, it's of no great consequence. go. Just slot this all in place. Go. Fabulous. Right. Just going to set that aside. Let the glue dry on that. And then we're going to do the same on our, I don't know what you call it, sub-spar, secondary spar. It just runs out along the first part of this outer wing. Adds a little bit of strength, but also, and probably more importantly, provides us with a second dihedral brace position, which obviously having two dihedral braces means that the wing can sort of automatically locks in the right place. In the right place when it comes to the inner wing. So and it's stable because it's got the two basically pegs sitting in the inner wing. So that's what I'm trying to say. So this has a particular orientation. I'm just looking over on my screen to the left of me, because that's where the manual is that I have electronically. So, and I haven't got my glasses on, I can't see that far. So, just going to take a swig of tea. That usually helps. And I don't want it getting cold. Don't like cold tea. Right. Let's see. So that goes in like so. So our little end bit here sits on the open flap on the end of this of the plastic part, and that will mean that the top of our little dihedral brace area just sits on the edge of the contour just there. So let's get that glued up too. I'm actually going to apply glue to our foam part. Oh, crikey. It's absolutely charging out now. So I also made the mistake of tidying up the tube, as in rolling the used part up, and I did that when it was cold. So obviously when it warms up, pressure increases as the liquid expands, nowhere to go to. So when you unscrew the cap, flop, out it comes. Right, I think we're all gummed up. So put that in place. Slide it into position. A bit of any gummy fingers. I'm just going to pop that aside. It's pulling away a little bit, but as we know, you pour the contact adhesive. So once that is dry, give it a little bit extra, it'll all come together. Right, whilst that's doing, I'll move our other parts out of the way, and we will set about scoring our skin for later on. But before we do that, in fact, what I'm going to do, and as it says in the instructions, I'm going to remove the aileron, and I'm also going to remove, there's a little rectangle that's been scored in the material, and this is where the servo arm comes out. So we're going to remove that because obviously we're fitting the aileron. So I'll just get my knife on that, and we shall remove. Okay, that's that way. Now let's remove the aileron. There should be two scores that run along this aileron, and we want the to go down the score that's closest to the main wing, which I'm doing now very carefully. And we'll just set the aileron to one side, but we just need to trim off about 1 millimetre of material from the area that sits next to the wing. So what we term as the leading edge of the aileron. As you can see, it's a really great aileron as well, but that gives us a lot of control for the small aircraft, which is great. Okay, so what you'll see on the manual, or in the manual, I should say, is a page that looks like so, and that gives us some indication. We have a shallow bevel that runs around the tips of the inside of the material, and then a shallow bevel that runs down the side here too. So I'm going to put my scores in first, and then bevel. No, in fact, I'm going to do it the other way around. I'm going to bevel first and then score later. So let me crack on with that. So I'm going to actually just roughly mark using hopefully pencil where I want my score to go to. So let's say I'm not pressing very hard, and as a consequence, I'm not making much of a mark. So let us swap to a pen that works, maybe. You've got to be careful with ballpoint pens because they actually cause a score themselves, and I'm not going to use a marker pen because this being a quite a translucent material, you actually, if you leave any, so I'm going to go with the pencil again, be a little more aggressive this time. There we go. So I've just marked on there sort of a guide to where I want to sand, and then just roughly sketch here where I want that to go to. So and what this means with the tip sanded, it means that we can squeeze the material together and reduce the amount of, if not get rid completely of the white line that's created from the cut material. So let me crack on with that. I'm not going to show you any sanding at this stage in the build. You've done enough already. I'm sure you know what you're doing. So I'll just pause the video and come back when it's complete. There we go. Sanding done. Very hard to see. And obviously, what I should have mentioned, of course, when I did suggest that the tips were sanded to reduce the amount of white edge, is that this is a white wing. So it doesn't really matter. But aesthetically, it will be more pleasing. And also, obviously, if you're not building the Percee Debonair, but you're building the Militaire, then your wings are a little bit different and they have colour. So white edges will need to be got rid of. So anyway, right, on to scoring. So, pop this on the map. Get it all lined up. Now I know a number of you actually tape this down, which is a very good idea. I haven't actually got my tape here. Silly me. So I'll have to hold it and be very cautious about what I do. So obviously if you've done this before, you'll know that the score lines actually come out either side of the part itself, and that's what you use as your guide. So just line it all up, and back of the knife. Try again, Mr. Porter. So, get it all lined up. Again. Now I can see the serious advantage of putting that tape on it. See, I don't usually get to do this because I'm the one deciding where the scores go, and I give that information to Simon and he pops it in the manual. One more to go after this, I think. Here we are. There we go. Now, if you want to put more in, you're very welcome to. Whatever helps. I've found just doing the tip okay. But what it doesn't show you in the manual is that once you've scored, let's put that to one side, then we're actually going to make sure those scores are all doing their job of allowing the wing to curve over. So that just means delicately running down the leading edge, just making sure each one of those scores is rolling over. And if not, just do the ones at the edge first. Yeah, if not, then obviously you can go back and do them again. But we have one there that's not doing what it ought. Let's just go over that one again. There we go. Just feel it folding as you pinch. So this can take a little time just to work them in. And obviously we're going to be using glue to hold this all together whilst it forms. Right. Well, I think we're just about done there. That's all now forming into a nice curved, tapering leading edge. And that all folds over nicely like so. Right, I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to start building our framework for the wing itself. So this should all now be nicely set. I can push these together now that all the glue is dried off. There we go. Let's see how our little dihedral braces are doing. They're fine. So what we want to do now is just pop these into place. That didn't go so well. Maybe that was drifted a little bit too far into the cavity. That's why. That does seem a bit strange. Right, I'm just going to pause and just troubleshoot for a second. So I've just disassembled it slightly to just check what's going on, and it's basically just needs a bit of manhandling into place. So I'm just going to add a little more glue to reinforce everything, and also introduce that wing brace. So just make sure there's enough glue in there, and then pop it in place, and then once the glue has dried out, we'll come back and push that all together, and then on this one, hopefully that goes in a little easier. So all we have to do is add a little of the U-glue to secure it in place, pop it in, and away we go. A little bit too much U-glue. Just remove the excess there with the fingy. And there we go. So that just pushes in until it can go in no more. It's obviously got a little stop at the back end where the foam is cut out, and we can leave that to set. Just check on this. It probably hasn't had enough time yet to think about all coming together. But oh, tell you what we can do. Got our little clips here, haven't we? Let's use one of those. Okay, that's all sitting together now. Okay, we can leave that like that for a few minutes until it sets. Whilst it is, what I'm going to do is, you'll notice if you've built Microaces kits before, especially the Scrappy, for example, you'll notice that there are two print sides on the foam that's used for the wings. Not so on the Percee. So the reason being is that we actually, or I realised during the design, that we can actually use some of the Tyvek to do that reverse print job. The area is not very big, and I thought, well, for what it takes to flip the print over, put it through the printer again, it's actually probably more effective if we just create a part that we can pop on the back. Obviously there is a weight penalty to that. The ink that would have laid on the reverse of the part is probably a lot lighter than the Tyvek itself, but it's so small in either case that I think it's probably minimal. And also it gives us a chance to use the Tyvek again in a different way, and that is that we also use it not only to decorate the reverse side of the wing and add colour and obviously the continuation of the livery of the aircraft, but it also provides a hinge too for the aileron itself. So what we're going to do is we're just to the reverse side of where the aileron leading edge is going to be. We're just going to add our Tyvek part like so, and it overhangs the edge where the aileron, the foam part of the aileron, will sit too. So line it all up. That's where it's going to sit, and we can glue it down. So I'm going to, as per the instructions, going to add the U-hoop to the foam rather than the Tyvek, because as you are probably aware now, the Tyvek, and I am now aware, the Tyvek will react mildly to the petroleum content of the U-hoop pore. So what we do is we wait until the U-hoop pore has dried off to its contact adhesive form to actually attach the Tyvek part. So that's why I'm smearing the U-hoop with my finger to ensure that it's nice and thin. All of the solvent can flash off quickly, and then we can pop our Tyvek part on. So we'll actually put that to one side now and leave that to dry off. Obviously it doesn't matter whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes. When it's dry, it's dry. And let's go back to assembling our wing. So we have both of our spars there, and the first step to building a wing, let me just consult the manual just to check whether we're doing the right thing. is we start adding our ribs. So the first rib to go on actually has this little scalloped area out. That's to allow the wiring for the servo. The servo to come out. There we go. Right. Also looking at the aircraft to the right of me, just to check we're making the right wing, which is the right wing. So the slots in the ribs should slot over the appropriate slots in the spars. This first one, if you notice, if you push it up to the sidewall of the spar itself, the slot in the spar, it actually, if you hold the spar flat, it actually slopes slightly to the left. That's because obviously this is going to come in contact with the wing itself, which is flat, so that when it does, you actually get a slight upturn on the spar, which is your dihedral. So just be mindful of that when you push the first rib up to there. That's where, and that's how it should sit, with a slight lean over to the left, as I'm looking at it at the moment. Certainly for the right wing, for the left wing, other way around. So that goes on there. I'm just dry fitting it. Let's just put a little bit of glue down, and in fact, actually, before we do that, let's just dry fit the other parts. So the rib part numbers will be on the manual, obviously, but they just sequentially get smaller and smaller as you go up the wing. As you've seen, the wing is tapered. So until you get right to the end. Right. There we go. So that's how it's going to be. One on there too. Excuse me. Right. Let's just disassemble. Pop the glue in all of the areas. See, it saves me putting the top on and off 6 times. I can do it all at once. Okay. First rib on, make sure we get that lean. I once again have Percy with me, the dog, as well as the aircraft. So I just heard him growl. I don't know whether you heard that as well. But so if you do hear a little bit of barking or scraping or scratching, it's not the resident factory ghost. It's the resident factory Percy. So I'm just checking they're all at sort of round about right angles. I'm not massively concerned if they're not. And then just check they're all sitting relatively level as well. Righty, how about that? So, and then to affect that, obviously I can just lay them down like so. And then I'm just going to let that dry off before I put my secondary spar in place. And whilst we wait for that, I'm just going to add this piece of Tyvek. Now it should be pretty obvious as to where it goes, and there's a slot that runs intermittently up here. Obviously the top edge of the slot should be level with the back edge of the wing. So let's go for it. Excuse if my head comes into shot. Go. Now, on mine, I've got a little bit of excess here. Hopefully, I've made the alteration to the cut file. You don't, but if you do, we can trim that off once we've got the actual aileron on the other side as well. The other thing to note is on your aileron, there will be a little hole that's been cut out too. That is to expose the slot that is also not on my aileron but will be on your aileron, which allows the control hall to be attached in the right place. So just to let you know. Right, so the aileron needs to be attached too. And what we'll do, because once again we've got to let the glue dry before we bring it into contact with the Tyvek, is I will apply the glue and then we'll let it dry off. So I'm using my colouring in technique where I've got the nozzle directly and flatly in contact with the foam, and it's just kind of glides because obviously the glue pushes out either side. There we go. That's everything. There seems to be a little bit of a bobble of stuff there, so just even it out. And then I'll pop that to one side. Try not to put my elbow on it. And crack on. Right, so on to putting the second of our spars on. So once again, 2 slots. Just dry fitting first. Like that. Squeeze that together just so that this will fit into the slot. Okay. So that's actually causing that to kink up slightly. But once again, I'm not concerned about that. The actual skin of the wing is a lot firmer than these ribs. These ribs just really are there to keep the skin separate and give it form. So as long as they're there, a little end piece like that's not going to affect the shape of the wing at all. So just add the glue. Go. And as you can see, they go inwards slightly, which does kick these out slightly, which provides a really nice snug fit into the inner wings, which is helpful. Stops them flying off on their own. So it's just let that all set and come together. Those clips out of the way now. And whilst that's doing, we can flip our wing over, and then, oh, look what I forgot to do. I forgot to take off my 1mm. Let's risk it sticking to the table. Just whip that off whilst we're here. I'm not going to press down too hard. Off you come. There we go. And then just take off the edge. Now, hopefully the glue will still take. Seems to be. So I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to add a little more glue. Tacking it down to the table didn't seem too much good for the glue itself, so let's just add a bit more. Go. Oh, just had a sneeze. Managed to pause the video before you got an earload of it anyway. So I'll let that dry off again, and we'll come back to it in a second. Okay, let's do it. Go. So I've got a little bit of trimming to do of the Tyvek on the other side. You may or may not. Just going to cut it so it's not overlapping. And there we have our aileron in place. You see, there we go. And obviously the Tyvek offers a decent amount of stability up and down the aileron itself. Printer's decided to switch itself on. It's actually the printer that prints the manuals. So it was very, very heavily worked yesterday, printing all of these off, printing all the manuals off for the Percee. So just going over my folds again, just to make sure I'm happy with how they're going. I can see there's one annoying one there, just not folding. Oh, there we go. Good. So now we've got that on, what we can do is put our framework in place on the skin itself. So obviously our inner rib here should be sitting flush with the skin, absolutely flush. And then there's a little notch in the side of the skin here, and essentially what you want is for each of the ribs to come up to where that score is. So you run down here, and you'll find that the actual strut will bend slightly as you take it down the wing, and that's fine. It's meant to be flexible. It's giving stability along the wing rather than back and forth. That strength is provided by the skin itself. So so that's what we're looking for. So as you can see with the inner rib here, when you get it up to the notch there, it should be pretty flush with the rear of this folded underside of skin. So let's add some glue to our framework, and then we can pop it down permanently. I'm not going to run glue all over the place. I'm just going to dab it in the important places. Go. Right, happy with that. And let's just put this into place. So, just making sure it's absolutely flush with the edge here. That's important. That is important. Go. And then make sure everything else sits in place down that one score line, which is I think 3 scores in. So it all kind of makes sense anyway. If you've ever made a wing before, so just check. All right, just to make sure where it's supposed to be. Great. Good. Right, we'll let that glue bite. So I'm holding it up here, you can't see it coming. So let's just show you. There you go. So you can see this there's almost sort of a curve on it where I've just made sure the ribs are where they need to be, and then yeah, you can see this curve of the spar just slightly. Look, the important bit, as I said, is where these ribs sit, because they will determine where the leading edge of the wing will be. So as you can see here, that is nice and flush with the edge of the skin of the wing. Okay, let's pop that to one side and get our servo out. Now, if you've been diligent, unlike me, you would have already tested and made sure this servo was nice and centered, that it operated correctly, and the extension that we used is also operating correctly. I've done none of those, I'm afraid. Not a very good example. This is the servo arm I would recommend using. It's the single arm with the 2 positions. And also in here there should be a teeny tiny titchy screw that will hold the arm on. Go. Let's just put that to one side. Not useful for another build. But before we put the arm on, we'll just establish where we want the servo to go. So the servo actually sits just there. So not like that, because obviously the servo arm wouldn't go through the wing, but it actually sits like that with this little flange area here sitting up against the spar there, and just a little way off the rib here, so that there's no friction against the servo arm when it's rotating against that rib. So what we're going to do is just attach our arm, obviously facing down, so it can go through the hole. So let's see if I can get mine better centered. Yes, so that's the best I'm getting on the splines that this sits onto. So that's on there. Get my little screwdriver, screw into place, which is always easier said than done. And then do it up. I think my screwdriver's too pointy. That'll do. Good. So we just fit that again. See, popping through there our little servo arm. And just making sure that the little screw that we just added to hold the whole thing together is clear of the rib. It can be a tiny nth of a millimetre, but as long as it's not touching, we're fine. So what we're going to do, in fact, we're just going to glue that in place like that using the U-hook. So I'm going to add a little smear of U-hook on the edge that comes into contact with the skin of the wing. And then I'm just going to pop that into position, like so. And then whip away to dry, and then we'll use the contact adhesive qualities of U-hook to bring those together. I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, glue is dry. We can now the servo in. There we go. And the last thing we've got to do before closing this whole wing up is just pop our servo wire through the hole, like so, ready for connecting up. And what will happen is once it's connected, this wire will retract or be pushed into the cavity that is left in the wing. Okay, so put it all the way out so it doesn't get in the way and get stuck between any surfaces. So the idea now is that this wing attaches like so, and we're going to have to do it this side up because obviously we've now got this servo arm protruding. If we push down like that, then it's going to cause all sorts of problems. So we're going to close it up this way round. Now, a couple of things that we've got to be aware of when we're doing this. Firstly, that this line of material here comes and sits against the corresponding edge here. Otherwise, that will introduce a bit of a twist to the aircraft wing, and also that it's not the position of this piece here relative to this piece here is so that it doesn't create too much of an underbelly of the wing. Ideally, we want it as flat as possible. Certainly at this end. At this end, we can actually introduce a little bit of a washout, and we can do this by actually bringing this edge together first. So if we bring this edge together, glued, before we bring this down, that we should effect a little washout at the end here, which is always good for stability of these little model aircraft. So what I'm going to do is start applying the glue to the areas that need it. Anything really that comes into contact. We don't have to be particularly generous, certainly along the various structural areas within the wing, but we do need a good amount, or certainly a good surface area of glue along the back edge here, and obviously we're going to do this tip first. So what I'll do is apply the glue to the tip now, and that will give it time to dry as we do the rest of the wing. So I'm going to give it a generous daubing. Not too much though, because we want it to dry. Obviously, if it's as dry as we can allow it, then we're not going to get glue splurging all over the place. So, and obviously if we can get it right up to the edge, even better. So that's the tip done. So what we'll do now is just do my colouring in method with the tip up against the material itself, and then just add the glue in a continuous smear. As you can see, I'm using small circular motions while keeping the tip in contact with the material itself. There we go. I'm just using the light to shine off the glue, just to make sure I've got it in all the areas it's required. Okay, and then let's just add a little bit to the ribs. Avoiding getting any on the servo. final rib at the end. I'm going to be a little bit more generous there. Okay, I think we're there. So we'll just let that dry off a little and then come back to it to close it up. Right. Okay. So let's just fold this over so that we can bring the tip of our wing together. Let me just make sure that's in shot for you. Right. Just pinching that all the way around just to make sure it's where it's basically mirroring the other side. You can pay a little more attention to it a little bit later on. Okay. Sorry about the silence. Thinking. Right, so here we go, the big squeeze. Let's just make sure it comes down where we want it to. Just check we're getting a little bit of a wash out of the tip, which we are, which is great. So just press home all the areas that we've added the glue to. Tiny bit of an overlap here, so I'm just going to remove that, and then we can use our little tricks to bring these edges together using thumbnails or the hard part of the handle of the knife, just to make sure everything is smooth, aesthetically pleasing. So I just want a quick comparison to the other wing I did. Normally, I mean, under normal circumstances, rather than videoing this, I'd have probably made both of the wings off the aircraft first, so I could compare like for like, and then obviously added both together. But I think that is how it should be, really. Got got a good shape to the wing. It's nice and flat here. It is bulging out here slightly, but That's inevitable, because of the way that the skin and the internals work. And I'm got a little bit of a washout too. I've just looked at the other wing, and the washout on there is comparable, which is fantastic. So the next step is really just to attach the wing to the fuselage. There are a couple of things we've got to do. Obviously, we've got to connect our servo to the connector that sits on the edge of the wing here. Now, those of you who have purchased the Percees, the first ones out of the stock, the supplier who supplied us the Y cables for the servos actually took my measurements for the wires and also included the connectors in those wires as well. The idea was that the connectors would sit outside of the wing, which would make installation, or certainly plugging in, relatively easy. Very easy. Now it's only relatively easy, because our connector only comes to there. Now, if you followed the instructions, you've probably added a dab of glue just to hold that in place anyway, so it shouldn't be an issue. So what I'm going to do is use my pliers just to hold on to the connector whilst I plug in my wing. Now, obviously make sure that the orientation is correct. Let's just get those wires on there to hold on. Could be slightly fiddly because everything's a bit bulky. Trying to get everything into position. Right. Everything's correctly oriented. Yo. A good purchase on that connector. Like that. Okay, so try the squeeze method instead. It seems to be. There we go. And she's in. Fabulous. Didn't need those after all. Okay. So it's just a matter now of closing the gap and popping in our dehedral braces. There we go. As you can see, it's a nice, really nice tight fit there. Let's close that in. We'll dry fit it first, just to make sure we're happy. Okay. So that connector just needs to pop in or out. Just cut the U-hoo tie. It's holding it in place at the moment, and hopefully it'll just pop in. There we go. There we go. not a bad fit. I'm going to take that aileron is touching there, so I'm actually going to remove some of that before we actually glue that all together. So just going to remove probably 1.5 mil. It's that. Yeah. So all I need to do now, as you can see, there's a little bit of a an edge sticking up there, which is a little concerning. Just going to take a look at that. Maybe I haven't got my wrap over as nicely as I'd have liked. So there is an option here, quite a drastic one, but we could actually just release this and do it again, which I'm going to give a go to. I didn't want to do this, but I'd rather have a perfect build or a near perfect build than one that I'm not happy about. So let's just run some of this. Now, I know I said the Tyvek really doesn't like petroleum, reacts to it slightly, and that's what it's doing. But what's going to happen is that once the lighter fluid has flashed off, the Tyvek will actually return to shape. So it's not getting trapped anywhere, which is better. So as you can see here, I'm just running okay. Just going to run that into two. There we go. Away it all comes, including our aileron. But that's fine. That's exactly what I was expecting to happen. Let's just release the tip as well. I think it's gone itself, so that's good. Just pull that out of there for now. Just let that all dry off, so it all returns to shape, and then we can give it another go. So what I was concerned about is this hadn't rolled over far enough. Right there, but it's just here that it needs to go over a little bit further means this edge should sit a little bit further forward on this one here. So let's just get the aileron back on. Ooh, that's a sail. Every time we get a sail on our website, the my phone goes ka-ching if the sound's on. Right. Let's do this so you can see it. So I'm applying this glue so we can reattach the aileron, which runs all the way down this part of the wing. We'll let that dry off, and then come back and we will rewrap the wing and then hopefully attach it. So I'll be with you shortly. Okay, that should be sufficiently dry now. So if we just bring our aileron back into the frame. There we go. And what we need to do now is recover our wing. So we probably need to put some more U-glue down on that edge there. So let's get that done. There's a little bit of a fiddle, but we shall get there. It's harder, obviously, with this semi-closed to actually get the nice thin smear that we would normally get if it was completely open. So what I'm going to do is just put a blob in there. I'm just going to use fingers to move or smooth out the quantity of U-glue that we've got in there. There we go. Get rid of the excess that might be on my finger. And then whilst we're at it, I'll put a little bit on this inner rib here as well. Go. Going to spar on the inside is still sticking to the original U-glue, so I'm just going to go in and release that so that it doesn't affect. Okay. And it doesn't try and retain the position that it was previously in, because obviously we're trying to re-establish that as in a different position. So I need to apply pressure to the front here so that we get more of the skin rolling over. Once I'm at it, I'll just make sure I'm going down the leading edge I'm just checking. It looks good. Yeah, that's a lot better. So we do have a little bit of yoo-hoo that's squidged out, but that seems to be balling up and coming off. Okay, well, let's try again. That connector is popping onto the inside of the rib there. Take this cable away. Go. Insert. Okay, cable seems to not want to go in, so let's give it some encouragement. Seem to have left my tweezers somewhere. Hang on a sec, I'm just going to go and get my tweezers. Here we go. Oh, getting the dandruff again. So that's coming together now. There's now no step there, which is exactly what we were after. And I think if I take a look from the front, we've got equal dihedral on both sides. I know you can't see that. It's probably quite difficult for me to try and show you, but believe me, the dihedral, yeah, seems to be pretty equal on either side. So now all we need to do is close her up. Get some glue in the contact area, and then we can properly put the wing on. Might need those tweezers again. Yep. I don't suppose you'd believe me if I told you the other wing went on so easily. Right, there we go. So, wing on, as you can see on the other side, there's a little bit of a tape that goes around it as well, in the form of a couple of pieces of Tyvek T25 and T26. So let's just grab those and we'll do our thing. So T26. And T25. There we go. And I think that is done for. So T26 just pops onto the bottom of the aircraft over the seam on the wing there. Being Tyvek, I'm going to add the glue to the foam rather than the Tyvek directly. Just a little along the seam there. And obviously what this will do, it'll help tidy up the area itself, cover over the seam particularly, and also add a little bit of neatness to the whole thing. So a bit more. Okay, see the one on the other side there. And then flip over. And this one is a little more shaped. It's not just an oblong. And there is a little bit of a graphic on there as well. And that just sits on the seam and rotates under like so. So let's just add a little more glue along that seam, and we can put our little strip. So it goes all the way down to the trailing edge alongside the aileron. Try not to glue the aileron. And runs all the way up the seam, right to the leading edge, and rolls over. That should go over and slightly overlap the one that we just put on. So leave that to dry, and then we'll apply our little strip of Tyvek. Okay, let's proceed. So fairly straightforward, really. Rolls over and overlaps. Not so well on this end. It's sort of a little bit wonky. Let's get the tweezers on it. See if we can re-maneuver it. There we go. Good old tweezers. They're all lined up now. So well, that was a little bit of a marathon, wasn't it? Getting the wing on. But I'm pretty happy with how it all looks now. There's a little bit more work needing to tidy it up, and I think there might be a little bit more tweaking to be done on the washout. But I'm pretty happy with how that looks. We are nearly there, folks. we nearly have our Percee Debonair ready for flight. So next step is to get the tail feathers hooked up. We've got to make some push rods and get the electronics in. Very exciting stuff. Well, thank you ever so much for watching this particular episode of the build. I hope yours is going well too if you are building the Percee, and I shall see you in the next episode. Thanks ever so much for watching.